Greetings everyone, my name is Greg. In this video I am going to be addressing some extreme stupidity that I've gotten from a person that their YouTube channel is called the Progressive Conservative. This is a major red flag for not necessarily someone that's a troll, but someone that's an idiot. When you can't even spell your own channel name correctly. And personally, when I see PC, I think of politically correct. And that type of shit is part of what's wrong with our society, is too many people are trying to be politically correct and fussing with that shit. The thing is, when you have a YouTube channel, if you can't even spell your own fucking channel name correctly, that is a major red flag that you're an idiot. It is something, one of the things that I'm wanting to mention early in this, beyond the fact that my voice might not be totally 100%, and I'm sorry about that, but if you're going to have a YouTube channel and you want to be taken seriously, get your name spelled right. That's kind of number one. Because otherwise you can be written off real fucking easy. Now, I don't consider this person a troll, just an idiot. And I'm going to be addressing a lot of their claims regarding Passover. And showing just how they will twist and distort what is in the Bible. But before I get into that, I want to show you a bit of Christian logic when it comes to things like Passover. This is Christian logic. How to get a bullseye every time. Step 1, shoot the arrow. Step 2, go and draw a circle around it. That is how Christians view the right way, or the Christian way of doing things. It's not honest, but it's Christian. And that is what you will see, is what the progressive conservative is doing. They're trying to have their base idea of what Passover means, which means they're going by the Christian ideas, the Christian claim, and wanting to insert that into Exodus 12. That's not how you do research. That's not how you look at a story. If you have two stories that are, one is written, say, even, and I'm going to make this a lot closer together than these actually were, if one was written 5 years ago and the other one was just written, you don't look at the one that was just written and then go back and look at the original story and try to find parts of the second one and there's similarities. No. You have to go by the first one and look at it in context of what is there, and then look at the second one. That's not what Christians are doing, because that's not how you get a Christian bullseye. This is something I want to hammer on, because this is exactly what they're doing. And you will see that with the claims that this jackass is making. Because this was their first two posts. The Passover simplified. The blood of the sacrificial lamb on the door frame saves you from death. Bullshit. That is not Passover. They are distorting what Passover is in the first place, because their idea with Jesus is that his dying on the cross paid for everyone's sin. And they want to this person wants to try and say, and Christians want to try and say, that is Passover. That is not what Passover was about. And I'm going to show you this. Let me just open up the e-sword. because I have it on Exodus 12. Now, one of the things I want to point out, I've covered this in another video, so I'm not going to totally go ape shit on verbatim, but there are things that are very important. And just to make it easier for everyone to see, I'll enlarge that. And just to go over this real quick, it is giving a time frame in the beginning of Exodus 12. But if you want to go back and really get, if you want to say, the context of all of this, and to see just how much of a jackass God is, you go back one chapter to Exodus 11. Because in Exodus 11:1, the Lord said unto Moses, I will bring yet one plague more upon Pharaoh. Now, one of the things to note with that is prior to this, he kept hardening Pharaoh's heart over and over and over again. And then being, Pharaoh won't let the Egyptians go, or the Jews go. Well, if you're controlling this person and you're hardening their hearts so that they won't, they're your little puppet on a string. You're the jackass that's hardening their heart over and over again. Of course they're not going to do what you're not wanting them to actually do, because you have this idea of, I have one more thing I want to do to you. What I've done so far hasn't been enough. I have one more that I want to get you with. And what was this one more thing? Verse 5. All of the firstborns of the land of Egypt shall die. That's not everyone. Progressive conservative. That's not everyone. Not everyone is a firstborn. And it's from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne, even down to animals. What the fuck did the animals do? How were animals doing a goddamn thing wrong? This God is so much of a jackass, so much of a downright prick. Don't hand me this shit that this God is about love. Bullshit. The thing is, to try and say that this, as this progressive, and I can't get over the fucker's fucked up name, that Passover simplified. Bullshit. It's not simplified, it's twisted. To save you from death. That's not what Passover is about. That's part of my problem with this person, is they're wanting to try and distort the story to fit their narrative. Which, yes, it does get back into the way Christians get a bullseye. Christian logic. The thing is, and yeah, and this is a big one with me, since I hit on it. Tell me a lie once and all your truths become questionable. That is what Christians are doing. They constantly lie. They can't not lie and maintain their bullshit. Lying is just part of, to use the term, the Christian game. But to give you an idea of why I go through this and why I'm such a prick for what is fucking there. A quote from Isaac Asimov. Properly read, the Bible is the most potent force for atheism ever conceived. And that is the truth. Isaac Asimov had it right. But note in there, properly read. And what I'm going to show you is someone like this progressive Christian or conservative is not going by properly. Because one of the things you also see in this is Jesus was described as the Lamb of God. I'm a prick. And when you try telling me that, like they did, and I'll show it to you again just to firmly establish this, Jesus was described as the Lamb of God. Christians, progressive conservative, I've already told you the answer to this, but how many disciples describe Jesus as the Lamb of God? How many times does the phrase Lamb of God appear in the Bible? I can tell you how many times it appears in the Old Testament. Goose egg. But in the whole fucking Bible, let's take a look. And I will have this over here so you can see what I'm typing in. You may not be able to read it, and go to exact phrase, because otherwise it'll look for every word. 2 times. Two progressive, conservative. 2. And all of them are in one gospel. Why didn't Matthew mention this? Why didn't Mark mention this? Why didn't Luke mention this? Why didn't Paul mention this? Why did no one else? If Jesus was this Lamb of God, why is it only in one gospel and only in one chapter? You're a goddamn liar, progressive conservative. What you're doing is you're taking and cherry picking. Big time cherry picking. Oh, I found 1 or 2 places that something is mentioned. That means that the whole context of the Bible is around that. Is that how you get the main points? Progressive conservative? Is that how you operate? Yes, this pisses me off because this is intellectually dishonest. People that are doing this are intentional liars. And yes, that bothers me. Because the whole concept of someone paying for the sins of another is bullshit. It is refuted in the Old Testament. Psalms 49, verse 7. None of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give God a ransom for him. And that particular is in stark contrast to and direct opposition to 2 claims Jesus made in 2 different Gospels. And the easy way to check that, ransom. And you can even simplify it to New Testament. Bam. These are almost verbatim with each other. Even the Son of Man is come not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Bullshit. That is in direct opposition and direct conflict with Psalms 49, verse 7. So who, Christians, do you go by? The God of the Bible or Jesus? You don't go by both. You can't, because they're in direct opposition to each other. Jesus said he was here to do what the God said no one could do. Psalms 49, verse 7. None of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give God a ransom for him. But it gets worse with Jesus. Because Christians want to try and say, and this progressive jackass will try to go here, and I'll just hit this real quick right from the top, that Jesus was without sin. Proverbs 17, verse 15. He that justifieth the wicked, and he that condemneth the just, even they both are an abomination to the Lord. Both of them. That would mean this idea of everyone is wicked from birth, and that Jesus was an innocent sacrifice. Both of you are an abomination to the Lord. Both of you are an abomination to the God of the Bible. and to try and act like you are damned because of the actions of Adam and Eve, you clearly have not read Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 20. Ironic that Christians will read the first 4 words, the soul that sinneth, the first 7, it shall die. After those 7 words, they stop, because the rest of it doesn't fit their narrative. But I don't stop there. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. Fuck you, Christians. You're liars. Right there refutes what you're trying to say with the aspect of everyone's damned because of the actions of Adam and Eve. Stop your goddamn lying. But it also goes on to say, but if the wicked will turn from all the sins that he hath committed, keep my statutes, do what is lawful and right, he shall surely live, he shall not die. No mention of anything having to die. No mention of a Jesus. No mention of just thinking someone died. No mention of that. The thing is, this gets at the heart of why Christianity is pure evil. But because I want you to see what this progressive asshole is all about. Look, this was their third. I'm not talking about Exodus 12, just a Passover event. Fucking seriously? You want to say you're talking about the Passover event, but you're not talking about Exodus 12? When Exodus 12 has in it, at verse 11, it is the Lord's Passover. They ignore this. This progressive conservative utterly refuses to acknowledge anything in this 1 through 14. They're going to make a typo, but they have lots of typos. The thing is, they want to try and say that this has to do with Jesus being no, not at all. This is the Lord's Passover. And if you're going to summarize a story, you have to go by the fucking story. And just for everybody that is not aware of what Passover is about, let me just, in a nutshell, and this progressive conservative is how you do it. In a nutshell, Passover was about the Jews taking a lamb that was about 1 year old. It was supposed to be 1 year old taken out of among the sheep and the goats, which would raise the question, if you're going to try and say this was Jesus and so forth, who are the sheep and who are the goats? But this lamb was also to be without blemish, without a mark. Now, Christians want to try and say that is without sin. Jesus wasn't, as I will show. But when I've talked to Mark Powers about this, he had raised the aspect with me, wasn't Jesus whipped? And I'm like, yeah, that's what they say. And he had said, well, that tends to leave a mark. So Jesus wouldn't have been without blemish, because the way this is meant, the without blemish is without any physical blemish. It's not a spiritual, it's not an aspect of have you sinned, because in Judaism, if you do something that is breaking the law, you don't have to kill anything. All you have to do is recognize, oh, I fucked up. Change your behavior, obey the law, do what's right, and you're fine. This idea of you have to be never having sinned. Bullshit. That's not what is in this shit. For as immoral as this shit is, that idea is not there. But the aspect of, here in verse 5, the lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out of the sheep and the goats. Now, let's just check the word blemish, entire, integrity, without blemish. It does not indicate anything about a spiritual anything. This gets into the lies of Christians. And that's one of the things that irks me to no end, is just how much these people will want to lie. And I'm bringing something in now that will be, and you see indeed. So let me, since I did bring that in and showed it to, and you saw it, that's getting into an aspect with Jesus. So, but in a nutshell, with the Passover, was dealing with a lamb that was to be killed by the congregation, cooked and eaten. It is very specific. And yes, I use this and this frequently. It doesn't mean a fucking thing. I've done a video on that. So all of you jackasses that want to make a big deal out of hand gestures, people piss me off. But the aspect, and they have the take the blood and strike it on the doorposts, wherein you shall eat it, and the eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Eat it not raw or sodden, but roast with fire and unleavened bread. So this is talking about literally eating lamb. And I had to eat lamb once as a kid, and it's fucking disgusting. But this is, and it in verse 11, it's eat it with haste, with the aspect of your loins girt, basically eat it ready to run. And it is the Lord's Passover. You're having this meal and you basically have your shoes on, you're ready to get out the fucking door. And the reason, for I will pass through the land of Egypt that night and smite the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both man and beast. Against the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. This is why they're doing it. And it's not that he's coming for everybody. It is firstborns. And the ironic part, and it's something that I had asked this jackass, are Christians crucifying someone every year and doing this because in verse 14, this day shall be unto you a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast unto the Lord throughout your generations. Every generation you're supposed to do this. Basically a memorial every year. You're supposed to do this. Eat a lamb type of thing. For Christians like this jackass to try and say that it's symbolic of Jesus. Progressive conservative. Are you crucifying someone and so forth every year? No? Then why are you ignoring and ripping out part of the story? But let me just go back and show some of and what I find interesting with their distortions is God told them to put the blood on the door from a sacrificed lamb so that death would pass over them. Note, they are absolutely ignoring that it was firstborns. They're trying to act like it is about death for everybody, and it's not. I took them and summed up the versions and compared it to the bare bones version of the crucifixion. The blood of Jesus is shed so that death will pass over us. I'm not a firstborn, you stupid fuck. So it wouldn't matter to me anyway. People, this was only about firstborns. This is why context is so fucking important. Progressive, conservative. The context of the story cannot be ripped out and be, oh, I took it down to bare bones. You made up your own version. You're not going by the story. You're making up your own. That is not honest. But then there is this. And I brought my girlfriend in just to make sure I wasn't the one that was fucked up. Do little differences affect the plot? It fucking can, especially when you have affect instead of effect. EFFECT is what you would use in there. Not affect, effect. Progressive, conservative. If you can't even get English grammar right, why should I think? Why should anyone think that you can get right this shit? You have enough fucking problems with the English language. But they make a claim down here, and I have it highlighted. The majority of people are decent human beings. Really progressive, conservative. Perhaps you want to tell that to the writers of your fucking Bible. Because apparently, the common idea in Christianity is all have sinned and fallen short, and if you don't believe in Jesus, you deserve to be tortured. That really flies in the face of the majority of people are decent human beings. So progressive, conservative. Do you want decent human beings to be tortured? Oh, if they don't think like you, like a fucking idiot, yeah, that's what's right. And I did have one. Now I assume they were a troll because they did remove their post shortly after they posted it. It was a different person, but they had said that Christians do think torture is good. And I was just one of, I should have had my GIMP 2 open and gotten a screenshot of that, because that was fucking priceless. That's an admission that really hits at the heart of what I am nailing people on. But there's this affix again. Yes, they did it twice. 2 different posts. Do little differences, and I'll say it correctly, effect the plot. Little differences, absolutely it can. It doesn't always have to. But a lot of times, abso-fucking-lutely, it can make a huge difference. And to try and act like you can completely distort a story and act like it's a little difference. No, it's not little. Not at all. But then they have, you need to understand the plot to know how the scene affects the plot. It doesn't affect the plot. It might effect the plot, but not affect. And that is progressive conservative. You have enough problems with English. Don't even try. to understand this horse shit. Thing is, then they had said, I didn't ignore Exodus 12. I found similarities that went deeper into the symbolism. No, you didn't. What you did, and I will show this again, this is progressive conservatives' logic. Step one, shoot your arrow. Have your base premise with Jesus. Then go back and look at the Old Testament and draw your circle around it. And BC, I got a bullseye. That's what you're doing. That is exactly what you're doing. It's not honest. But you're a Christian. A progressive Christian. And a progressive conservative. The thing is, notice at the bottom, and this is where I am a bastard when it comes to people that try and say something is written somewhere and they fuck it up. And this jackass fucked it. Exodus 1:21 verse 30. There is no Exodus 1:21. And if you want to try and look at it of two verses, there isn't a Exodus 12:1 and then a subverse of 30. No. But then if you look down, they have Exodus 12:31 to 42, and then they have and 43:51. But look at how they have that one. That 43:51. That is how you write book and chapter. The chapter and verse. Because you have the first number, ... the other number. Notice they have 43:51. Now, let's look. We're in Exodus. Doesn't go past 40. There can't be. Literally can't be. 43 verse, chapter 43, verse 51. It can't exist. And what's more, in Exodus 12, when you get down to this shit, it's far more talking about the Exodus, the leaving of Egypt. You could also use the term of it is a repeat of, but what they're ignoring, they'll do a 1 through 30, but they don't. This person, in none of their posts do they reference ever anywhere in. The only thing they'll give of this is the first number. And then they have through 30. They do not want to even look at the first 14 verses. Because that does not line up with Jesus at all. And if they would admit that, that would mean they have to admit that Jesus doesn't fit this shit. But let's get to, because I did point out in yellow, they have a contradiction and I want you to see it. I'm not looking at your grammar errors. It's because I'm not making them. You can't look at what's not there. And if I would want someone to point it out. Because if I am fucked up somewhere, I want to be told. Because unlike you, progressive, conservative, if I'm fucked up somewhere, I will correct my fuck up and I won't do it again. I won't make the same mistake. I want someone, if I fuck up on grammar or spelling, because sometimes I do spell things wrong and I go back and edit and be, oh fuck. One of, I hit the wrong thing. Edit and fix it. Mistakes do happen. But I'm not going to let it slide. Hell, I've taken videos down and redone them because I fucked up on something. And it was, even though it might have been a minor detail, I'm a prick. And I am a prick with my own self and with my own videos. If I don't have something right, it bugs me because I pride myself on accuracy, on not lying. Lies bother the fuck out of me. They obviously don't bother you. The thing is, this person continues to try to make the claims of the Passover lamb was without defect. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And I will establish this very easily. To use the term, the subject and object of what is being talked about, Leviticus 17:10 through 14. I've talked about this before. And Christians will try to cherry pick verse 11. You can't do that. You have to go through 10 through 14 because this is talking about the Jewish dietary laws. And it is this section, 10 through 14, can be summed up with you shall eat no manner of blood. This whole thing is really getting at the Jewish dietary laws of don't eat blood, no drinking blood, period. That being said, it was something that Jesus had said, and it's rather disgusting, and Jews were wanting to kill him for saying this because of what is written in Leviticus. Now, it doesn't specifically say you're to kill the person, but where Jesus was saying about, I am the living bread and all that happy shit, the Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? I would question, where was he saying this? Wasn't this supposed to be the Last Supper? And weren't those just supposed to be his disciples? And if his disciples were looking at it and being, how can he be saying this? This is one of, ew. But then there is this at verse 55. And it is, for my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. I breezed over that before, but I had the thought of, what's indeed? The aspect of, that's interesting. Look up indeed in the Greek. Because Jesus is clearly saying, my flesh is meat indeed. And let me show you. What is it in the Greek? Truly, indeed, surely, verily. And I had the thought of, okay, what is it if I look it up just online in an English to Greek term? And that's where I found literally that it has the pretty much the Greek aspect and what it means literally. So going by that, And that, to use the term translation of what this Hebrew word, this Greek word would be, and read with what we see here, changes it big time. For my flesh is meat, literally, and my blood is drink, literally. That changes things. That changes things a hell of a lot. It might be a minor detail, but that is a huge, or as Trump puts it, huge. It's a huge difference. And yes, one of the things that this dum-dum did was they went to Trump bullshit, and I really don't care. Yeah, it's probably, down in here he talks about Trump, and it's one of, I don't fucking care. That's not along the lines of what we're talking about with this. The thing is, to try and act like Jesus never sinned, this right here is a major sin. But he really, excuse me, Jesus had sinned in many ways. So the idea that he was innocent, no. Because the last thing that I'll touch on, and one of the things I have done in other videos, I have a link in another video, I forget where, but it's to download the e-sword. Because this is something, if you're going to go head to head and you're going to use book, chapter, and verse, one of the things I do a lot of times, if I don't have it committed to memory, which a lot of this I do, but even with as much as I remember stuff, book, chapter, and verse off the top of my head, I'll still, before I respond to somebody, I'll pull up my e-sword and I'll just verify that, okay, yes, I'm right on book, chapter, and verse. Because it's one of the things that I don't give any, to use the term, any quarter or any excuse when I am quoting something. Because if you make a mistake and you misquote, even if it is to use the term, an honest mistake, when you're dealing with people that lie as often as I breathe, an honest mistake, they will distort it into you're trying to trick them. This is the way these people think. To them and their way of thinking, everyone else is out to deceive them. They themselves will lie as much as they feel they need to in order to achieve their own ends. And anybody else is trying to trick them. So if you don't have, to use the term, your ducks in a row, they'll use it as an excuse. But one of the things that I don't want to forget about with the aspect of Jesus is, my flesh is meat, literally. Who got the dick? I mean, let's just put it right out there. What, was it Judas that got the penis? Which one got Jesus' dick? And which one was eating balls? Because if you're going by the Passover and you're trying to say Jesus was the Passover lamb had to be eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread and bitter herbs shall they eat it. Hey, this is the God that had said about eating shit. And you're saying you wouldn't be saying about eating human flesh if you actually meant that? And just so Some of you may be thinking I'm making that up. No, I'm actually not. The aspect of dung. It's not used the term of shit, but yes, the God did order them to. And the ironic part with that is it had ordered them to make their bread out of human shit, but when the person objected, he let them substitute cow shit. But then there is, oh yeah, in a sense I don't want to forget about, it's, yeah, Malachi chapter 2 verse 3. I'm not sure about the other one, but this is one that when we're talking shit, you want to talk about the shit of the Bible. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts. I'm sorry, I have no dung of my solemn feasts. None. I don't eat shit. But this is the God of the Bible. Christians, I guess, well, this isn't really even about you even, because you guys are worshiping a golden calf. But, ugh, shit sandwiches? None for me, thanks. But there is one more thing that I wanted to show you guys. And that was where this jackass had said, you prove my point exactly. You don't understand symbolism. You're a child. Only a child would assume something about a person they never met. This really had me kind of almost laughing my ass off. Reason being, we're on the internet. This is a YouTube video. I'm not going to meet 99.9999999% of those that watch my YouTube videos. Not in person meet them. I had said to this jackass, welcome to the 21st century. It's called the internet. It's called you meet people via the stupid shit they say. In that regard, I've met this jackass. I've interacted with the stupid shit they post in my comment section. It's meeting them via the internet. But it's still the same. You're still interacting with the person. This is where they're brain dead. I don't know if all, and I would even say it correctly, progressive conservatives are this fucking retarded. But this is level of stupid. When you interact with somebody online, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be physically in their face. Any exchange, you are meeting them. Granted, a lot of people online are fucking liars. I deal with jackasses like this fool. And yes, I don't expect someone like this to be honest in who they are. The truth is, for as much as these people lie on my YouTube comment section, I wouldn't want to actually meet these fucking liars. Because who knows what the fuck they're about in person. From the internet, the aspect of that, yeah, I met my girlfriend and so forth, but there's only been, oh shit, my girlfriend, my former business partner, and maybe one other person. So that's 3 people. Other than that, and it was only one other that has been a friend of mine for, oh my word, 7 years or so, that he had come up to Pennsylvania from Florida, and we had talked, and he stopped in for a visit. And him and I talked in person, face to face. And it's something, I enjoyed it, but it's just, it's not going to happen with most people. It's just not realistic. In a lot of ways, it's not safe. Because there are some very fucked up people. There are some seriously fucked up people. But the idea that it's childish to basically reach a conclusion about someone you've never met. I reach conclusions about people based on what I see. And it's no different, really. It's just a matter of, basically, it's safer for me to interact with people like this via the internet, where I at least have that I can close down, shut off, and I'm getting away from this fucking retard. Because in person, I would be apt to get slap happy. Just because of the level of dishonesty. But it was the friend that also had come up and visit. He had said with my videos, and it was also back when I would do different, like, snap audio blogs. He had said, and it's something that you guys could use with my videos, the aspect of he'd start one of my blogs or whatnot and get on a treadmill because he knew he was going to be there for a half hour or so. And yeah, it's a good way if you need, in a sense, motivation to be on a treadmill, start my video and get on a treadmill. Because especially with a topic like this, we're going to be here a little while. But, because I don't try to have my videos 10 minutes or less, largely because I did internet radio, and with that, I was geared there with shows that were an hour long, or 45 minutes to an hour. So, it was one, and it has carried over. And a lot of times when I am getting ideas for a topic, I don't, like my last video was only a few minutes because it was just dealing with the hand gestures and shit, and that didn't take me long to cover. But for the most part, there's a lot of stupid shit that I'm going to be covering. So, yeah, it's going to take me a little bit to get through it all. But one of the things I would hope is what I say in a video. Don't take my word for it. This is something, even that last troll that he ended up going into the troll box type of thing, blocked, muted, all of that happy shit, because of being a freaking dumbass. The thing is, I had said to him, don't just believe something because I say it. Because you're not always going to have my videos around, and if you're just going by what I have said, you could fuck up what I have said. And because I had said to him, he was bastardizing to hell my aspect of thought crime, and where I had said what makes something thought crime. It's just one of, think of the words, thought crime. It's where somebody is making a crime out of what you think. The thing is, when I do things like this, I will show you and I'll walk you through and explain pretty much how I reach the conclusion I have and how to look at things and what not to do with different things like this shit. You don't go into a subject with the preconceived idea of, I want this. I have, like, the aspect of Jesus, because that's what the arrow is. The arrow is Jesus. And then what they're doing is they take that, have that idea, and then try to put everything from the Old Testament around it. It's dishonest. And what I do is show how to deconstruct that. How you can go through, look at this shit, and be tearing apart what these people were trying to claim. It is not, I don't do this because to make myself feel good. No. My interest with this is to teach all of you how to do this for yourself. How to look at this shit for yourself and see either exactly what I have said or maybe see something I didn't. And mention it to me, and I'll look at it and, like, in the aspect, if it would be something that I would be scratching my head over, and it's Old Testament, I'll talk to Mark. I don't have a problem with asking Mark questions. I may not always agree with his, to use the term, his answers, especially if it would be basically through the, to use the term, Jewish lens. But I would at least, if he's going to say that this is what the text is talking about, okay, fine. In that regard, because he's looking at it in Hebrew instead of the translated into English. So in that regard, okay. But he's not going to blow smoke up my ass. I know that. And it's not, him and I have already gone over, and I've asked him multiple times the aspect of pretty much what would happen to me with the Jewish God, and he was pretty much nothing. One of, why should I be Jewish? No reason you should be. It's one, there's no threat. There's no bullshit like I face from idiots like this. Christians wouldn't say the same thing. But I'm going to wrap this up. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments. Oh, there is one more picture I wanted to show you. I had found this one, and yeah, there's some that may not like it, but that is the aspect. You want to talk Passover? There. And I know there's other symbolic type of things that can be a reference to, be that as it may. It was just a picture that I had found, and I was just one of those, really? That type of cake, I don't think I would ever want any part of. It's one, I'm a chocolate cake person myself, but just the sheer nature of that one, I don't think so. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, people.